It's something that's taught in my faith all the time, that you don't just practice the religion within the four walls of your house of worship. There needs to be outreach. When I see Muslim organizations doing that sort of thing, how can you not approve of that? So when I see that that kind of activity is done by folks involved in this movement, I think it's a good thing. For a number of us to actually travel to Turkey itself, two instances there. One involved corporations there. We were into so anybody who's doesn't achieve anything that is My name is Russell Goodman. I'm a journalist by profession. In fact, I'm the editor-in-chief for a number of publications that are owned and operated by Keller International Publishing. I'm also a board member of the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg. Well, because our council is very much interested in putting on programs of one sort or another where folks from one culture or another come in and speak to the members of the council, at one point we explored who might be in the Turkish community that could come and address our membership. And in doing so, we began to run into folks at the Red Rose Intercultural and Educational Council. That was probably the first instance of my meeting anybody in that movement. After meeting people at Red Rose, we invited a number of them to participate in programs that we put on at various high schools or at various other institutions in the area. And then after that, there came an opportunity for a number of us to actually travel to Turkey itself. Two instances there. One involved local teachers that were sponsored by the Turkish cultural organizations in central Pennsylvania to send them to Turkey so that they might learn specifically about Turkey and more generally about cultural affairs and political affairs in the Middle East. But then, of course, in the second instance, a number of us who were with the council, a number of members of the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg, were given an opportunity to go and spend a week or so visiting with a number of people in politics, in business, and in other circles throughout Turkey. Wonderful opportunity. The general observation about the folks that we encountered was the degree of friendliness and openness that we encountered. Because I'm involved in journalism that deals with business. All of the publications that I'm concerned with have to do with business. I was very much interested in meeting with people who are involved in business some way or another in the country. And I was delighted to see that we were introduced to folks who are running some major corporations there. We were introduced to people who are teaching economics and various other business courses at some of the top universities there. So that was an extremely pleasurable part of that trip, highly informative as well. I don't pretend to be an expert in the Hizmet movement, but I will say that I am very much aware that there is an accent on interreligious or interfaith dialogue, and that's something that interests me a great deal. Locally in Harrisburg, I am one of the co-chairs of the Interfaith Advisory Council to the mayor of Harrisburg. Moving in interfaith circles and trying to promote understanding between people of different faiths is something that is very, very important to me. When I see that somebody else is involved in that sort of thing and on a global scale, that's somebody that I would dearly love to meet. That's somebody who is doing something of which I must say I heartily approve. I think interfaith dialogue is more than important. I think it is crucial. I think without it, I think that we are headed for a disastrous consequence. If you are not engaging with other people and learning about them, then you don't understand what they're all about. Anything that you don't know is something that you fear. So if you're not engaging with people of another faith, then you fear them. And when you fear people, the actions that you take are disastrous, not only for them, but for yourself. Moreover, I think you need to be involved in interfaith dialogue because you need to make your views known. It's not just a matter of learning about Buddhists or Hindus or Muslims or whatever. It's a matter of getting your views across so people understand where you're coming from. It's more than important, it's vital. It's important for Muslims, it's important for every religion to become involved in interfaith dialogue. But more specifically, for Muslims, I think it's important for them to make their positions known so that those folks who will listen to them will recognize that they are no different from anybody else. They have the same needs, they have the same wants. And moreover, I think it's important for them to make their own argument that as people of the book, they really are very much the same as Christians and Jews, that they are not different in any substantive way. I think that's important for them to be able to do. I recognize that there are critics of interfaith dialogue and who think that these efforts are a waste of time. They think that they dismiss it. They say it's all kumbaya and it doesn't really achieve anything. I understand that viewpoint. I understand the cynicism of many people who say that things like the United Nations are a waste of time, that nothing really is ever accomplished. My view is that we should do everything we can to try to make a difference. We will certainly make no difference, certainly not one that is good for society, if we do not try. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us of all faiths to do everything that we can to make some kind of positive difference. So to the critics, I would say, let's try this, let's do this again. If we don't, we're guaranteed to fail. We're guaranteed to have disastrous results. Throughout my travels in the Muslim world, which is from North Africa all the way over to the Southeast Asia, I have met any number of Muslims. And of course, I've met any number of Muslims in the United States, throughout Europe, when we have lived over there on several occasions now. I have a very favorable impression of most of the people that I have met. I recognize that societies incorporate every kind of person, and of course there are individuals in any religion who are very, very difficult. I see that in my own Christian religion here in the United States. There are folks who simply do not want to have anything to do with anybody of another religion. And there are folks here who simply do not want to be educated about any other religion. It's unfortunate, but in my faith, there are many folks who feel that if we can't convert them, then there really is no reason for us to have anything to do with them. I recognize there's a counterpart to that in the Muslim world, but for the most part, the people that I have met are very much different from that. They're very open and they're very friendly to folks of other faiths. That certainly has been the hallmark of the folks that I've met in the Hizmet movement. I applaud any religious movement for becoming involved in their community. So whether they are involved in charitable acts, whether they're involved in educational processes in their community, whether they are doing something to try to improve the health of people in their area, if they're working with children in some way or another, you can't do anything but approve of that. That's a good thing. Outreach on the part of religious people is important. It's something that's taught in my faith all the time, that you don't just practice the religion within the four walls of your house of worship. There needs to be outreach. When I see Muslim organizations doing that sort of thing, how can you not approve of that? So when I see that that kind of activity is done by folks involved in this movement, I think it's a good thing. I believe it's important for organizations worldwide, whatever the culture, whatever the religion, to be involved in charitable activities. I think we're enjoined by our God to try to serve our fellow men and women, our brothers and sisters. So when I see that Muslim organizations want to involve themselves in charitable activities, whether it's something that will benefit Muslims or others, I can't help but think that that's a positive thing. You know, to people who might say that activities that the Hizmet movement is involved in, both in the United States and any place else in the world, ultimately does nothing to benefit Turkey, I have to say I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Because when you come in contact with people who clearly are involved in their society in a positive way, that's a good thing. And that is something that redounds to the credit of folks back home. When I encounter people who are involved in this movement in central Pennsylvania, and I see that they are trying to make a positive difference in this community, a difference that's going to benefit not just Turkish Americans, but everybody in the community, that redounds to the credit of folks in Turkey, because I look at them favorably. And I have to assume that they are part of a culture back home that wants to make that kind of positive difference as well. So to anybody who cynically says, you know, this stuff doesn't really achieve anything that is beneficial for the Turkish nation, I would just beg to differ and say, reconsider. I believe it does.
I really feel like the Hizmet movement is one in terms of its outreach, and really a courageous outreach, it seems to me, into all different kinds of religions and governments and political parties and charitable groups.
There has to be an emphasis on education, and that's clear in Hoja Efendi's writings. It's clear, first of all, because he many times makes the comment that it's all about our children. They're the future, and we have to invest in our children above all, and that means educating them above all.